So, just a few days ago, we had one of the biggest trades in NBA history, a four-team deal that sent James Harden to the net in exchange for a lot of picks, and then the Cavs and Pacers were also involved, not just the Nets and Rockets, and it was a massive deal, and it was a little bit of a shock, but a little bit expected. We obviously knew that James Harden had requested a trade, and he was not happy in Houston, and he wanted to be traded. And the two teams that were rumored to get him most heavily were the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets. And it was really a two-horse race for James Harden, and the Nets just ended up getting him. And because the Sixers just weren't willing to put everything on the table for James Harden. And in this video, I'm going to ask the question, was that a mistake? And should the Philadelphia 76ers have traded for James Harden? So the first place to start with this is just what the offer would have been, and this hasn't been confirmed. It's been speculated extensively as to what was on the table. We do know, or we'd assume, that it was Ben Simmons was the centerpiece of the offer, and then it would probably be Tyrese Maxey, maybe Matisse Thybulle. You'd have to assume at least one first-round pick, maybe two. So let's just assume the offer was, for the sake of this video, Ben Simmons, Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, and one first-round pick. So let's make the case of why the Sixers should have traded for Harden. And I think the place to start for that is just Harden is an amazing player. He's been in MVP conversations for the last 5 years, and he's clearly an upgrade over Ben Simmons in terms of talent and just ability right now. Another thing it would do is it would increase the spacing. Obviously, Harden is one of the best shooters in the NBA, and Ben Simmons is not a shooter. So that is a massive jump, and that benefits Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris. Joel Embiid has been playing great this season, despite Ben Simmons not being a shooter, and with James Harden, who still has similar playmaking abilities to Ben Simmons and could still get Embiid the ball. There's no way you can double off Harden or any other of the Sixers shooters. So that means he would basically have the ability to go one-on-one with his defender in the post, similar to what the 94-95 Rockets did with Hakeem, where they just throw it into Hakeem and have the four other players space the floor. And then if you brought a double on Hakeem, and in this case, if you bring a double on Joel Embiid, then it's an open three. And if you don't, well, good luck, because Embiid is probably the most dominant post player in the NBA today. And, there's not many guys in the NBA who can stop him one-on-one. It also benefits Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris has been playing great this season, and just Tobias Harris is a player that can score on all three levels, but likes to attack the paint and get inside for easy looks, and then just more spacing. The paint is less clogged, easier for him to do his thing. So that is something. Another thing is Harden would also create a lot of three-point shots for the Sixers, not only with his isolations and step backs and, James Harden things, but also with his ability to drive and kick. When James Harden goes inside, he can draw a lot of fouls, but he can also kick it out to teammates for three-point shots. So that would benefit the Sixers shooters like Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, and Danny Green. Ben Simmons could also do that a bit, but I think Harden, just the level is much higher, and you're pretty scared when James Harden is going inside, and so that would definitely help the Sixers. And finally, just from the start, Harden, just him being a superstar, elite offensive player, one of the 5 best offensive players in the NBA, I think. When you have an elite offensive player, your offense is really good. Be an unstoppable offense and unstoppable duo. You could also have the Harden Embiid pick and roll with a spaced floor, and that would be scary for defenders because, basically no way to stop it. You go over at the 2-on-1. You go under, Harden has a 3. You switch, Embiid has a post-up, Harden has an isolation. That would be maybe the best play in the NBA. So that would be why the Sixers should have traded for James Harden and just, Harden's ability to do things. Here's why they shouldn't have traded for Harden, and they made the right decision. They would have less depth. they'd have to give up Ben Simmons. Okay, he's replaced by James Harden in the starting lineup, but they would lose a bench player like Tyrese Maxey or Matisse Thybulle or even both. And, that sort of hurts because their bench, it isn't great. It's sort of like a feast or famine bench where on some nights they're a good bench, on some nights you're getting nothing from them. So it would hurt to have even less depth. They'd also have less assets in the future in terms of first round picks and young players, so it would impair them for making a move in the future. They would also have a worse defense because Ben Simmons is maybe the best perimeter defender in the NBA. He's also a very versatile defender. And James Harden is not a very good defender. I mean, he's an okay post defender, but, having a guard that's a great post defender isn't a huge asset compared to a player like Ben Simmons, who's 6'8", 6'9", 6'10". I'm not sure his exact height, but has the ability to guard 1 through 5. Has the ability to be both impactful on and off ball defender. And the Sixers, they have a really good defense right now. I believe it is 5th in the league right now in defensive rating. That would certainly drop off with the addition of James Harden and the subtraction of Ben Simmons. Also, Matisse Thybulle is a very good defender if he was in the move. They also get much older, and their championship window shortens. James Harden is 31. He's under contract for 2 more years before he has a player option, and 34-year-old James Harden, 35-year-old James Harden, there's a chance he could still be a good player, but Harden is nearing the end of his prime, so if you're trading for him, you need to win now. So if they did trade for Harden, their championship window would be the next 2 years. With keeping Simmons, their championship window can be the next 6 years, the next 8 years, who knows. They still have plenty of time. They have 2 young cornerstones in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and plenty of time to get a roster around them that can win and everything like that. So just if they traded for Harden, everything would be accelerated quite a bit, and there would be a lot of pressure to win now. And who knows how good they are with James Harden. I think they're definitely better because Harden's better than Simmons, but are they better enough where you're willing to give up your future and Maxey and Thybulle and multiple first round picks? Are they good enough to win the East with James Harden? I don't know. Are they good enough to win the NBA championship? Probably not. I still think the Clippers and Lakers would be better, even though they do have James Harden in this hypothetical. So it's just a lot of pressure to win now, and you're giving up your future for winning now when the Lakers are really good, and also all the uncertainty that comes with the virus that is currently going around, and that is stopping players from playing, and that is definitely a risk factor where things could get messed up. Maybe that helps the Sixers, maybe that hurts the Sixers. We just don't know. So that's a big risk to be taking in this season. So my conclusion, if the Sixers should have traded for James Harden, I mean, it just depends mainly on your thoughts of Ben Simmons and of James Harden. I think they made the right decision not trading for James Harden. I can definitely see the case for them trading for James Harden because Harden and Embiid would just be a dominant duo, and the Sixers would be really good. But the Sixers are still really good now. I really like Maxey as a young player. Thybulle can definitely be a good defender. They still have all their first round picks, and they still have Ben Simmons, and they still have plenty of time to win. Something else is they could also make another move, maybe not including Ben Simmons, getting a third star. They do have young players in Thybulle and Maxey. I believe they have all their first round picks, or they definitely have quite a few first round picks. So that is something they could trade for. I don't want to get into specifics, but maybe Bradley Beal. Do they have enough without Simmons? Someone like Zach LaVine, Victor Oladipo maybe, who is now on the Rockets. He can be traded before the trade deadline. So, they still have plenty of options and flexibility to moving forwards, and they still have plenty of time moving forwards. So I think the Sixers made the right decision not trading for James Harden and keeping their young players and assets and Ben Simmons. I understand the case for it, but I'm happy that the Sixers are still together, and I think they made the right move. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys.